What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Keep It Hoop YouTube channel. So I wanted to just go over some of the games from last night and then look ahead to some of the games we have coming this weekend. Right off the bat, I want to start off with the Warriors-Mavericks game. The Warriors won 147 to 116, and Kelly Oubre, of all people, had 40 points. Now, I did a video yesterday, and I'll have that linked up right now, on the most disappointing player on each NBA team. And for the Warriors, I had none other than Kelly Oubre. Now, he's been struggling a lot with his shot, and although I think he's found a way to help his team out other than shooting threes and making them. He's found ways to do that a little bit, but he went out for 40 last night, so maybe he can turn the corner. And the Warriors did that without having a center, right? Scoring 147 without a center. Kevon Looney's out. Wiseman's out with a sprained wrist. And, I don't know what's going on with Dallas. Now, the Knicks have Dallas's first-round pick this upcoming draft, so I'm rooting against them just for the betterment of my Knicks. But, I mean, I had Dallas going into the playoffs this year like they did last year, but they just have not been able to figure it out. Their defense, which has been a little bit better this year, obviously is still inconsistent, giving up 147 to the Warriors. Their shooting has been atrocious. I talked about Josh Richardson being disappointing this year. He's not shooting well from three. Luka himself is not shooting well from three, and he's kind of taking some bad shots, I think, and he's getting a reputation as someone who whines a lot, which is, I think that's a topic for another video. But yeah, I don't know what's going on with Dallas. Good for Golden State. They are also a little bit inconsistent, but they're finding ways to win. And look, I think you can see really just the veteran leadership of Curry and Green and Steve Kerr just trying to get as much as they can out of that roster. I said this yesterday as well, but again, props to Andrew Wiggins for really figuring it out. He's looking good. But yeah, Dallas needs to figure it out and need to do so quick. The Jazz beat the Hawks 112 to 91, and the Hawks didn't have Trae Young. So I actually thought, the Jazz were going to win this game, but I expected someone on the Hawks to step up. John Collins had 17, and I think he was their high scorer. I think that shows you just that the Hawks don't have that second guy. I think John Collins is a solid guy, but I think he's more of a third option. Clint Capella had 6 points, and he shows that, he's a guy that can put up good fantasy numbers, but he kind of needs someone to make plays for him. Cam Reddish, 12 points, not impressive. Kevin Huerter has 16, and that's all right, but again, you just don't have that second guy, and I know Bogdanovich is out, and that's kind of a disappointment, but Gallinari only had 5 points in only 18 minutes. So the Hawks are another team kind of like Dallas, a team that I expected to do better, a team that I expected to jump from, and whether it's injuries or just disappointing play from their guys, they just haven't been able to get it done. The Jazz continue their good play, and besides that loss against Denver, I think it was on Sunday, they've just been playing really well. They get 23 from Clarkson, and I've been vocal about how impressed I am with Clarkson. I think he's doing a really good job in his role, and they win a game by 21 where Donovan Mitchell only has 18. They get 21 from Bogdanovich, who seems to have gotten out of the shooting slump that he went through to start the season. He's looked really good in 3-4 games now, and that's good for them. Again, Conley only had 11 and 4, and they just find a way to win. Part of it was Atlanta, again, just being disappointing. Atlanta without Trae Young, but you also have to credit Utah's defense, something they've been known for. Now, the Blazers beat the Sixers 121 to 105, and they do that without Dame, without CJ McCollum, and also without Nurkic, right? So a good win for them. A bad loss for Philadelphia. Ben Simmons was out, but Embiid was still playing, and he put up monster numbers. I think he went for 37 and 5. But Tobias Harris struggled. He only had 12. Nobody else really showed up. Tyrese Maxey actually had a pretty good game with 15. Shake Milton chipped in with 12. Seth Curry's been really struggling over the last few days. He missed last few games. He missed most of the game, I think. He just said he didn't feel well. I think he was held to 0 points yesterday and then 0 points the game before. He's really been struggling after getting off to a hot start. I've been vocal also. If you check out Twitter, I've said this in some of my videos as well, but I think Seth Curry has turned himself into a really nice player, and I don't doubt that he'll get back on track and play, maybe not to the extent that he was playing before he missed some games with the COVID protocol stuff. That being said, I think he will get back on track with just the amount of open threes this team can generate for him. I think he'll be fine, but they do need him to step it up. Danny Green inconsistent, 3-1-5. Yeah, the Sixers kind of just didn't have any help for Joel Embiid, and their defense really let them down. It's a team that, again, I know Ben Simmons was out, and he's one of the anchors for their defense along with Joel Embiid. But, I mean, they gave up 22 to Melo. Shout out to Carmelo Anthony, obviously Knicks legend. Love to see him playing well. 24 to Gary Trent, 16 to Rodney Hood, 15 to CJ Ellaby, 14 to Anthony Simmons, and S. Kanter had a monster game with 17 points and 18 rebounds, out-rebounded Embiid. So, big win again for Portland, bad loss for Philadelphia, but I don't really see a problem with Philadelphia. 16-7, even with some of the games where Embiid and or Simmons have missed, I think they'll be fine in the long run. Good to see Portland, though, picking up a win even without Dame. Again, that's a team that I've been kind of disappointed in this season. At 12-9, though, they do look like they might be figuring things out, and with them, it's health is another big thing. Even when they were healthy, they weren't playing great, but it's hard to judge them as a whole right now without CJ and Nurkic. Dame should be back soon, though. I know the Rockets beat the Grizzlies. I don't have much to say about that. The only thing I really took away from that game, John Wall said he feels like he's the franchise guy now after after James Harden has left. Good for him. I know John Wall's always played with that chip on his shoulder, that confidence, and it's one of the things that makes him so good. Sometimes it held him back, but I think it's good for him to really have that confidence, especially after all the injuries and all the time he missed. I do like what the Rockets are doing. That Rockets-Grizzlies game is one that could potentially end up being one of the playing games. But yeah, good win for Houston. Now, the big game of the night was Denver-LA. Now, it was back and forth at the beginning. Denver looked like they were going to kind of run away with the lead. But LA just came back, and then they never really looked back. There were two things from this game, or actually maybe three. One is AD was a little bit off, and I think I want to see him more aggressive. He gets underutilized sometimes, and he just didn't take enough shots, even when he got the ball around the rim. But I do think maybe they can run more plays for him, get him more involved. Two, the Lakers did a great job in stopping Jokic. They played really good defense on him. They got Marc Gasol and AD, two guys who can play him a little bit differently. Obviously, Gasol can, I think, match up with him strength-wise and just size-wise, and that's really what they brought him here to do. And he's a guy that also did similar things to Embiid, and the Lakers have been making it tough on these big men. And then also Jamal Murray. Osiris and I were talking about this on Twitter, but he just seems like, I mean, he's a guy that just hasn't taken that next step. And I said this on yesterday's video, and I'm disappointed because, look, he's a very solid player as his numbers stand, and I get he's dealing with injuries this year. But after the playoffs he had last year, I thought he was going to be able to really take that next step into becoming an elite player, or at least just a star, right? A superstar. But he's been averaging like 18, 19-ish for almost 3-4 straight years now. And at a certain point, you can't sell me on potential anymore, right? 3-4 straight years are the same numbers, even if they're good. Like, that is just what you are. And again, I get there's injuries, and maybe once he gets fully healthy, or if he gets fully healthy this year, he can turn it around. But I just really thought that after last year's playoffs, we'd see more, and I expected more. And I think we're at a point in this season where it's like, all right, like maybe this is just who he is this season. And if this is who he is this season, then as a whole, again, it's just like maybe this is just who he is overall. But a good win for the Lakers. The Nuggets struggled to shoot from the perimeter for the most of the night, and they're a team that if they're not going to make shots, they're not going to win. They can't really stop people. Not a good defensive team. They were never elite, but they were at least solid in the past. They were able to hide the weaknesses of Jokic on defense, of Jamal Murray, who's become a better defender over the last couple of years to his credit. But this year they've been, I think they regressed, and I do think playing guys like MPJ more minutes has definitely made their defense a little worse, and I know he's working on that as well. But yeah, this is a night where Denver's shot wasn't falling, and when they're not able to score, they're not going to win. Most nights they're able to score enough because they do have a really explosive offense, but that just wasn't the case. Some of the credit just does have to go to the Lakers defense, the best in the league right now. So that's it for the games from yesterday. Now we can take a look at some of the games from tonight and then the weekend. So right off the bat, I think the big one tonight is Raptors-Nets. I think that the Raptors are starting to play a little bit better. Brooklyn coming off of that win against the Clippers on, I think, Wednesday. So it'll be, a matchup of two teams with a little bit of different identity, We'll see if Pascal Siakam can continue to pick it up. Fred VanVleet coming off of his really big game. Like the Nets can't guard anyone. They definitely can't guard guards. Fred VanVleet, maybe he has a big game. Kyrie versus Fred VanVleet, we'll see. We'll see a little bit of Kevin Durant versus Siakam. James Harden continuing to integrate himself into the offense. And we'll see if the Nets can continue to build any type of defensive chemistry, which is what's going to be the deciding factor of how far they go in the playoffs. I do want to point out how impressed I am with Harden, who's kind of taken a back seat on the offense in terms of shots and points. He's kind of become the facilitator, more of a point guard for that team. And look, if he's happy with it, and I think he can continue to be happy with it so long as they're winning, then, props to him. I do think that if the Nets start losing 4 or 5 games in a row, which I don't foresee, but if that happens, then we might see some things where it gets a little chippy. Maybe not chippy, but just a little awkward. I do think that Harden's still going to have games where he scores 30 or 40. I mean, he's already had 30-point games for the Nets. But I think that was before Kyrie came back. That being said, I think the offense looks fine, but the defense is going to be key. Another game that might be somewhat interesting, the Hornets Jazz. The Hornets have been one of the more surprising teams this season. The Jazz, as we've alluded to, have been getting off to a good start, playing really well recently. That'll be a good game. And then Celtics Clippers, that should be a really big game. Celtics continuing their West Coast swing. The Clippers coming off of the loss against the Nets. They now play the Celtics. The Celtics are coming off against a win against the Warriors, I believe. And they looked pretty good. I think a little bit closer than at least I expected. But yeah, I mean, 2 teams at the top of their conference. Should be a good game between those 2 teams. For the Celtics, hopefully Kemba can really get it going. He was on my list of most disappointing player on their team. I think the Kawhi Leonard, Paul George duo against Jaylen Brown and Paul George would be fun to watch. I don't know if you guys remember, but Jason Tatum had his really coming out huge game last year against the Clippers, and that's when he kind of really took off. So yeah, should be a good game. Excited to watch that tonight. Tomorrow you have a decent amount of games, and I think there are a few to keep an eye on. Knicks Blazers, I think 2 teams who the Blazers have been doing better, but the Knicks trying to stay in that playoff hunt. Melo comes back to New York, so that'll be fun. It's a 1 o'clock game early in the day. I'm excited. I'm going to be watching that for sure. Raptors Hawks, 2 teams again. We already talked about both of these teams, but trying to climb the standings after a disappointing start. That'll be, an exciting game to keep an eye on. Nets Sixers should be the game of the night. Both of them trying to claim the Eastern Conference crown. Hopefully Ben Simmons is playing in that. I'm not sure about his availability, but you got the big 3 for the Nets against Embiid and Ben Simmons if he's healthy. Warriors Mavericks, we'll see if the Mavericks can respond from that embarrassment of a performance that we talked about from last night. I think that's about it for Saturday. The other games don't seem too. The Spurs Rockets might be a good one, might be a close one. Two teams again. I think outside of the playoff picture in the West right now, trying to make it in. Minnesota and OKC, the bottom dwellers in the West, but I don't think that'll be too fun to watch. Memphis and the Pelicans. I think Pelicans games are still somewhat fun to watch because of Zion, because of Lonzo, because of Ingram, and Ja. Memphis, but I don't think that'll be too fun to watch. Orlando, Chicago, 2 teams outside of the playoff picture in the East. Probably not. And the Lakers Pistons might be a blowout. On Sunday, Knicks Heat, I'm going to be watching that again. I watch any Knicks game anyways, but rivalry, obviously not as big recently, but I'm more just curious to see how Miami tries to turn its season around. I think that, Hornets Wizards might be all right to watch. I think the Hornets are just a fun team to watch in general, with LaMelo, with Rozier, with Gordon Hayward playing really well. And, the Beal and Westbrook, I think, have, their exciting moments as well. Jazz Pacers should be a good game. I think 2 teams that play a little bit similar, pretty balanced offenses, and, solid defensive teams. I think that should be a pretty good game. Clippers Kings, probably not. Suns Celtics, maybe. The Celtics, again, on their West Coast trip. The Suns have been a little bit inconsistent, but Chris Paul has been playing really well. And, the Celtics, again, we'll see as they start to wrap up their West Coast trip, how they respond in that game. So, That's it for today's video. Not much, but I just wanted to talk about some of my thoughts on last night's games, and then just some of the games, in case you guys haven't seen the schedule, that you guys should look forward to this weekend. If you guys haven't yet, please subscribe, like, share, and comment. Really appreciate it. We're over 100 subscribers, so we are thinking of what to do for that kind of milestone that we have reached. Thanks to everyone who has subbed. Do follow us on our social media pages. On Twitter, it is Keep It Hoop Blog, and on Instagram, it is keep_it_blog. Thanks again for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we will be back either tomorrow or Monday. But yeah, stay tuned, and we'll see you guys soon. Thanks.